Listen. Short story long.
Welcome.
It could take your whole life.
Preach.
Develop clarity.
Second, patience.
If it scared you, you should probably do it.
Whatever you think you don't have, you have something else in its place.
Listen. Short story long.
Go, Woody, go.
Preach.
Listen.
Welcome.
Dana, we made it.
We did it.
We did it, man.
We've been
after
talking.
all this time.
We've been talking shit forever, and now we're finally in here doing your podcast.
Yes, I'm so thankful. You know what's funny is I just randomly hit up your assistant the other day, and I'm like, I haven't checked in a little bit. Let me just see if this could work out. You happen to be in town. Here we are.
Yeah, the problem is that every time I come out to LA, I'm running around all day, and you know what I mean. I'm usually in and out, but I'm here for the weekend now.
This is it, man. We got a room here at the Hilton, and we're going to crank it out.
Yep.
I'm excited. Okay, so a couple things. You guys especially you did that UFC video right after the sale to WME that told the whole story of you and Lorenzo and Frank working together and all that stuff. So I'm just going to link that because a lot of times I try to go through people's whole story, but I don't want to take up an hour and a half of your time.
No,
and that thing spelled it out pretty perfectly.
Really does. Nails it.
So for everyone listening, that is linked in the description below. It's just such an incredible story. I mean, I think, so on this podcast, I mainly go through and tell stories of people who have created amazing lives for themselves and how they did it and the real details. Your story is like one of the best that exists.
Thank you.
When it comes to perseverance and vision and the importance of partners and like it's insane. So anyway, I couldn't be happier.
It's funny you say that because it's so true, and it's one of the things that I always say, you know, loyalty and not forgetting what you thought and where you were and when you started, you know, is so important in business.
Yeah. Gosh, man,
because when the money, first of all, when you're losing money, everybody wants to point the finger at whose fault it is. Yeah. And then when it turns around, you start making money, everybody wants to say it's me. Yeah. And then you start having differences in opinions and you see all these great things break up because of ego or money. Like you telling me Guns N' Roses can't get together and go on a tour and play. Yeah. How long, one of my favorite bands ever, the Eagles, how long the Eagles went without playing together, you know, because of that stuff. Albums. Come on, you guys, come on. I mean, it's just ego and that type of stuff ruins some of the greatest products, some of the greatest businesses, some of the greatest friendships, bands, and it's just completely unnecessary.
Yeah. And that's why I love that you're such a testament to, because I think when I was coming up in business, I always thought like geniuses come up with genius ideas and those people get rich. Idiots don't, and they stay broke. I didn't understand all the nuance of like, no, there's genius ideas that fall apart because of ego or because 100%. Of, like, I never understood that when I was young. And as I get older, I realize that it's almost more that than it is that these people are geniuses. You know what I mean? Like it's just being able to stick together with a good group and stick it out.
So true. And it's about respect. It's about loyalty. It's about treating each other right and, you know, and keeping your ego in check.
Yeah, big
so time. Huge.
So what I want to know is like, you're such a grounded dude, right? You've had so much success and you still talk like this and you still make time for me to sit in this boardroom and have this conversation.
Thank you.
How did you grow up? Did this come from the way you were raised? Like, what was your childhood like? What type of kid were you? Were you always ambitious? Were you like, paint that picture for me a little bit.
I wouldn't say that I was always ambitious. When I was a kid, I was your typical kid. Yeah. I got in a lot of trouble and, you know, all that kind of shit. But, you know, as I got older, I had a hardcore upbringing, you know. My mother used to tell me that I was gonna be just like my father and not amount to anything and things like that, and I was gonna be pumping gas into my friends' cars. My mom did a lot of shit like that, and I'm not saying that that's what drove me, but that didn't hurt. You know what I mean? But the one thing that I can always say that I was very lucky is I always knew what I wanted to do. I think if you look at most people right now, like if you went to any college campus anywhere in the world and asked these kids, what's your major and what do you want to do for the rest of your life? They'd be like, well, I'm taking political science, but I think I'm going to switch to this and that. They don't know.
Yeah.
They're going to college because they were told that if they didn't go to college, they'd never get a good job, they'd never get this, they'd never get that.
Yeah.
So these kids come out of college with an education that most of them don't use.
Yep.
If you know what you want to do, you wake up every day and you work toward that goal. Yeah. It's so much easier when you know what you want.
And I believe, tell me if you agree with me or not, I believe that when most people are young, they kind of have an instinct for that. And I think the college or the noises from their parents or all that stuff kind of deter them from that. And it's usually that original thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It seems like almost college. I think people go to college a lot because they think that's going to hand them their purpose. They think you get a degree and a purpose at the end of 4 years. But you kind of end up more lost than ever a lot of times. And with an education that you're not going to use, do you think that as someone who found that purpose so early, like, how do you find it? Do you know it early? Do you try a lot of things until you find something?
Yeah. So, typical young guy, you end up, you have to get a job, you have to make money, and you have to do stuff like that. So, I had a job. I say it all the time. There's this company in Wakefield, Massachusetts called EJ Paving, the Evangelista family. And I did some paving early on in my life. Mm-hmm. That's real work. Yeah. That's a real fucking job. Like I was like 17, 18 years old. I felt like I had one foot in the grave working that job.
I'm sure.
And I knew I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. Yeah. You find out what hard work really is. Then I worked in the hotel business and, I had a couple of jobs. The one thing that I realized young is I didn't want to work for anybody else. I wanted to work for myself. Yeah. So I knew that you have to become an entrepreneur and you have to start your own business. Yeah. And I knew I wanted to be in the fight business. Yeah. I didn't care what aspect of it was. And I also knew that I was young enough that if things didn't work out, I could always go back and pave roads and be a bellman at a hotel and things like that. That job was always going to be available. Yeah. So I took all the risks at a young age. If you don't take risks, you will never succeed, ever.
And at that time, it sounds like almost nobody believed in you.
Yeah, I think that when, if you look at the landscape at that time and you say, I want to be in the fight business. Yeah. First of all, what the fuck does that even mean? What does being in the fight business mean? And how's there money in that? And, it wasn't just like wasn't what people considered a normal job. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know, man. I'm so, I really admire that ability and that thing, whatever that is, to have a vision and stick to it and persevere against what everyone says, seems to have benefited you through your entire career.
Yeah, it's true. And listen, there was a point in time in my life when I was 26 years old. Mm-hmm. And when I was 26, I proposed to my wife and I was getting married and, then you're getting married, then you start doing all the shit like, fuck, when do I need to grow up now? And, I want to be in the fight business and, I'm going to have a wife and I'm probably going to have kids soon. And, then you start getting sucked into all the things that people put in your head, 401k, health insurance, retirement and all this other stuff. And, real testament to my wife. She was like, fucking go for it. Yeah. Do what it is you want to do. Because at one point when we got married, I went back and got a job again. I'm like, it's time to grow up. I need to be a grown up. I went and got another job and I was like, fuck this grown up shit. I can't work for anybody else, man. I'm going back. So I was involved in boxing. Then I had boxing gyms in Vegas and I went out and cut these deals and built these gyms and, teach people how to box, whether it was businessmen, fighters, or whatever. Brian. So Brian over there, who is my security now, he was a kid. I trained him when he was a kid.
That's incredible. Talk about a full circle moment.
Yeah, he went out and became a police officer in Vegas and, made it to the highest level of police and retired and came back with me as security. But when he was a kid, I trained him.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you tell the story in that documentary about how you were managing fighters, right? for the UFC. So the UFC was kind of this crazy thing where it was like no rules, bare knuckle, like just wild,
Right.
last man standing stuff. You were managing Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz,
Yeah.
and then you kind of caught wind that maybe there was some financial trouble happening, and there might be an opportunity to buy.
Right.
the
So
UFC.
the Fertitta brothers own Station Casinos in Las Vegas, which is the 4th largest gaming company in the country.
Yeah.
And Lorenzo and I had always said we were going to do something together in boxing, right? And I was managing Chuck and Tito, and I was talking to the old owner, Bob Meyerowitz, who was out of New York. And we got into this contract battle over Tito Ortiz's contract. And I was talking about pay-per-view, and he flipped out. He says, there is no fucking pay-per-view. There's no money. This thing's, blah, blah, blah. And he freaks out, and I was like, holy shit, this thing's in trouble.
Yeah.
So I literally hung up. The Fertitta brothers were in Florida. I called them and said, I think the UFC's in trouble. I think they're going out of business, and I think we can buy it, and I think we should buy it.
Yeah. Incredible.
And that was literally, the rest is history.
And
But
did
then,
you like the reason why because you said in that thing too, like it was essentially you bought the name and a
old wooden octagon
for $2 million.
Yeah, and I think we had like 11 guys under contract. There's over 600 fighters under contract now. There was 11 at the time.
So my question is like strategically at that time, did it ever cross your mind to just start your own and not have to buy that? Or did you feel like there was enough of a brand still there that it was worth the $2 million?
Yeah, really what we ended up buying for $2 million were those 3 letters, UFC.
Yeah,
And there was a horrible stigma attached to the UFC back then, but whether bad or good, you knew what the UFC was.
Yeah.
And we believed there was value there.
And then I imagine it was just an absolute nightmare trying to get all the regulations and clean it up. And I mean, was it like, okay, we bought this thing. What the hell are we going to do? We need to get it back on TV. We need to get it cleaned up. We need to get it not so barbaric. Like, was that?
And that's where Lorenzo Fertitta comes in. So Lorenzo was a former regulator himself. He was the head of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Yeah. So not only did he know everybody, he was very, very respected by his peers in that world. And we went out and just started trying to educate. People would take a meeting with Lorenzo Fertitta and would hear him out on the sport. And the reality was, a lot of the marketing that was done in the old days by Bob and those guys was 2 men enter the cage, 1 man leaves, the most barbaric, bloody sport. It was all marketing and hype. Yeah. The reality was there'd never been a death or serious injury in the UFC. If you met these athletes, they're incredible people. I mean, most of them went to college and they had families, and it wasn't really what it was advertised to be.
Yeah. Gosh, that just seems like such a mountain to climb. But once again,
it was.
But we were
up for the challenge.
It's the same thing though. Again, it's the same as quitting the bellman job. It's like you had that vision of what it could be, and that perseverance is just the part that I'm so like dumbfounded by. Because I'm sure that walking into those meetings where you're walking in with like PDFs and trying to educate a state on an athletic commission on what this sport even is, and they're telling you it's blood sport, and you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. No, it definitely was. Then getting out. Think about this, right? So we bought this company, and our goal was, because we always believed we had to get this onto free television for it to really take off, because we believed that people would love this sport that we were in love with as much as we did, right? We just had to get out there and present it the right way and get it on television. Now, when we bought it, it wasn't allowed on pay-per-view. You, as a grown adult, didn't have the option to buy this thing on pay-per-view. Porn was on pay-per-view, but the UFC was not. Yeah. That was the mountain that we had to climb.
Gosh. So then you talk about, too, very openly, how you burned close to $40 million funding these things. Because it just wasn't generating the money, right? So you're just putting the money in. Famously, there's a moment when, was it Lorenzo calls you and says, hey, man, you got to try to sell this thing. How much can we get for it? You go out, you say $6 or $7 million bucks.
I'm making calls all day. I come back to him that night and I say, 6, maybe $7 million bucks we could get for this thing.
And he says okay and hangs up for the night.
Yeah.
And so at that point, when you go to bed that night, is the UFC over?
Yeah. I'm thinking that this thing's close to, if it's not over right now, we're close. This thing's going to shut down soon. They can't keep blowing all this money on this thing.
So are you thinking about like jobs again? You thinking about 401ks again? Where's your
I didn't
head?
really, it's one of those moments in your life where you're like, I believe in this thing. This thing could really do it. And I feel like we have momentum right now, but we're going to run out of money. It's just, you can't expect. Think about this. If you spend, and it was like $34 million, $44 million, the number is in that ballpark somewhere. Now, for you to have that kind of money to spend, you made $70 million. And you got taxed on your money. And that's, it's really, that's the number.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of money for anybody. So I don't know exactly what I was thinking that night, but I was sick thinking this thing could be over any day.
And then the part that I love too is, so then Lorenzo calls you the next day and essentially says, fuck it.
He literally said, fuck it.
Okay, so he literally says, fuck it. The thing that I love about that part of the story is you can take all the business classes you want, you can read all the books you want. It never tells you when or when not to say fuck it.
Right.
Because everything on paper said, shut this thing down.
100%.
What do you think even in him or in you guys made fuck it the right thing? Because it was the fucking right move.
Right.
Far and beyond now. Now we know that. But at that moment, it's probably seemed completely reckless.
Right.
How do you know when to say fuck it?
So the Fertittas are proven great businessmen. If you look at what they've done, and if you really know the history of the Fertittas and what they've built and what they've done, incredible businessmen.
Yeah.
And Lorenzo explains it as, the day you had that day, and it's at the end of the day, you're heading home and you just had whatever your day was that day. Sounds like he didn't have a great day that day, but you get a good night's sleep. You wake up the next day and you have a completely different perspective on what this next day is going to be and what you want to do or not do. But I think, what I believe is that the Fertittas are such good businessmen, there's a gut.
Yep.
Everything is in a gut. I don't care what you do. Anybody who does anything fucking great goes off their gut and what they're feeling and what they think they should do at the moment, that day, or whatever the deal is. And I think in his gut, he woke up the next day and said, yeah, let's not shut this down. Then we got to the point where we were going to invest the last $10 million into The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah,
and again, that's all a gut,
Yeah.
Your business gut said, fucking let's do it.
How do you think you train a business gut? You think it's just experience?
Yeah, I think, you have guys that, like the Fertitta brothers, are well-educated guys, master's degrees from the best schools that you can go to, and are just street smart and have business sense, and, they have the whole package. They are the most normal, down-to-earth, well-rounded billionaires that you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Most billionaires are assholes, let's be honest. They're fucking idiots that you wouldn't want to fucking hang around with for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The Fertitta brothers are actually guys you want to go out and have dinner with and party with. And they're real guys. They're good guys. Because of their well-roundedness in their personal lives and whatever, I think that's what makes them so successful.
Yeah.
And they're really smart guys. Me, I didn't go to Ivy League schools and I didn't go to any of this stuff, but I've spent my whole life learning about focusing on the fight business. Yeah. And, I always thought that I know what fans want. I know what fans want to see.
Yeah.
I know the fights that need to be made. I've been really good at finding young, up and coming talent. So when you put those two things together, the Fertittas and me, it was a home run.
Yeah.
And now with Ari, and I don't know if you know Ari at all. But
I don't know him personally, but I know the legend of Ari. Is that a similar dynamic?
He and I end up being perfect partners too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And you think a guy like Ari, if you watch Entourage, same thing.
Yeah.
Ari Emanuel has no ego when he deals in business, and he's a fucking killer And I love that about him too. So
Yeah.
it really worked out. For me to be able to have 2 perfect marriages in business is pretty crazy.
Yeah, because they say that a lot, that, a lot of the perfect combos are the business people and then the visionary. Because rarely do people truly have both. You might be okay
right.
at both.
You're right.
But man, you nailed it with that. And I think the thing that's so fascinating about you and your story is like, you really have the thing that they don't teach at college. That's what it sounds like has benefited you so much. You can't teach vision
Thanks.
at Harvard. You know what I mean? You can't teach perseverance at Harvard.
Right.
And that's what I think. So if you get, it sounds like, partnered up with some people who know business and believe in you, you can take over the world. But man,
The scariest part during the sale is that everybody that came in that was making offers to buy the UFC, the one stipulation was that I had to stay.
yeah,
So then I'm like, holy shit. And the Fertitta brothers were like, listen, man, you got to stay, And it's not that I didn't want to stay. Who am I staying with?
Yeah,
is
big
the
time.
question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
because those guys are gone. So now it's you and your new,
And again, a testament to the Fertittas, there were higher bidders than Ari.
yeah,
There was a company that was bidding $5 billion.
jeez.
And it wasn't. I said I don't give a fuck about the money, but at the end of the day, everybody gives a fuck about the money.
Yep.
And that the Fertittas absolutely cared about the money and the other things that were, but they were cool enough and smart enough to realize we need to match them up with somebody that it's actually going to work with.
Yeah.
And Ari was the guy. Ari was absolutely the guy.
So back to that Ultimate Fighter moment, because that's such another insane moment of this story, is you guys, so you're still 40 million in the hole. You think, God, if we could just get this thing in front of more people, it could win. And Ultimate Fighter was that concept. But now, and correct me if I'm missing any of this or I'm doing it wrong, but then you go pitch it around and now you're having trouble again because no one wants to take it. Is that right?
Yeah. So we come up with the concept. We find Craig Pelagian.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's about finding the right people. Pelagian is me and Pelagian are like really close friends now. I'm his only friend. He has no friends but me.
Yeah.
And but we're fucking tight. And it's again, it's about that relationship. We find Pelagian, he's the right guy. And we go out and we start pitching this thing and nobody wants it.
Did Pelagian help with the concept? That's what he did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happened was me and my team, the crew that worked with me at that time at UFC, went into my office at like 11:30 at night and came out at 2 a.m. with the Ultimate Fighter.
Got it.
On the fight side, we handed it over to Pelagian and his team. They made the reality show tweaks to it. So now we're out pitching it. And there's this new network that just started at the time called Spike TV.
Yeah.
And they were going to be television for men, right?
Yep.
What's more perfect than that? So 2 guys come out, and we give them the pitch. And I'll never forget, it was here in L.A., and they couldn't wait to get the fuck out of this meeting. They had to go to the Dodgers game. They were late for the Dodgers game, and they wanted to get out of this meeting so bad. And they leave, and they didn't like it. So the Fertittas come back and say, well, what if we pay for it? They like that idea a lot better.
And nobody does that.
So they put up the fucking $10 million for the first season. Then we get on, and the fucking thing goes like this, takes off. And credit to Spike TV.
Yeah.
They put us in the right slot. They knew timing-wise where we should be. And,
Yeah. But then once you got on, you couldn't even recoup you couldn't even get sponsors, right?
No, we couldn't recoup any of them. We flew around the country. Me and Pelagian flew around the country trying to get sponsorship, and nobody wanted us. Like Snapple offered us like 10 grand or something.
Is that because it was fighting?
Huh?
Is that because it was fighting?
Yeah, and it was the UFC brand. And De La Hoya and Stallone and all those guys had just come out with the Contender,
Yeah.
which was, I think at the time, the Contender had more money in sponsorship than any reality show ever in history. So there was definitely no money for the Ultimate Fighter in the UFC, but it was better. See, what you don't understand is because Spike TV didn't believe in it, because none of the sponsors believed in it, we retained 100% of the rights of everything.
Yeah.
So while at the time it hurt and it sucked,
Yeah.
but when the thing took off like a rocket ship, the fact that we retained 100% of the rights
Yeah.
was a home run for us. It was unheard of at the time.
Talk about like a bad situation ended up working out.
Yeah,
Because at the time it had to feel like
Yeah.
it's just another blow. You
But you know what we
sustained-
did? It forced us. It forced us to build a business that we really didn't need the help from anybody.
Yeah.
So what we did was we ended up building a real business and essentially owning 100% of our own league
Yeah.
because nobody believed.
Gosh, I mean, it just worked out. It's so good. When so then you would run your own commercials during the commercials, right?
Yeah.
You'd run your own pay-per-views.
Right. So instead of the Snapple or the this or the that,
Grand.
I got to talk stock and start promoting Snapple. Snapple didn't do shit for us. I need to stop talking about these guys.
For real.
But yeah, because we didn't have any of that stuff,
Yeah.
we ran our own commercials. We wore our own merchandise. We had UFC in the middle of the thing instead of, and the show's pulling killer numbers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Blowing anything they had on the network out of the water. And at one point when the Josh Koscheck, Chris Lieben, and Bobby Southworth blow up that happened on the first season,
Yeah.
thing got up to like 2.5 million viewers. At that time was massive.
Was that the first season?
Yeah, it was the first season.
So it pretty
like
quickly-
episode 5 or 6.
So it like right away took off.
Yeah, it took off. Huge.
What did Spike TV say? Did they call you like, hey man,
No.
totally sorry?
So at the time, the president of the company got fired. So at a time when you see a show that pulls these kind of numbers
Yeah.
and is this successful, there's billboards, there's commercials, there's ads in magazines. It's everywhere. You can't hide from that show, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They did nothing. There were literally people hiding in their cubicles over there because they didn't know who was going to get fired next. It was crazy. So I'm flying back and forth to New York during this first season.
Yeah.
They won't even meet with me. We should have been the most celebrated thing on the network.
What the
They wouldn't
hell,
even take a
man?
meeting with me out there, right?
Yeah.
Then they had promised me all this marketing that they would do for the finale.
Yeah.
They did none of it. It was so fucked up, so dysfunctional, and such a mess.
Yeah. Couldn't catch a break.
So finally, there was a guy named Doug Herzog, and he oversaw Comedy Central, Spike, and all this stuff. And I'm like, I got to get in and see this guy.
Yeah.
Right? So finally, I get myself a meeting with Doug Herzog, who ends up being the greatest guy ever. Okay? And we go into the finale. We have no deal. Nothing. And Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner end up putting on that fight.
Yeah.
And the numbers during the fight went just like this. And
That
this
was
is
live?
Yeah. And this is before social media or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So people were picking up the phones and calling their friends, telling them to turn on this fight. The fight blows it out of the water.
When you were at the fight, did you know?
I knew.
Yeah.
People were stomping their feet, and it sounded like a train was going through the arena. And at the end of the fight, people were chanting, one more round, one more round.
Yeah.
And then on the cuff, I go in there and on the fly, give them both contracts. And the place goes crazy. And I knew when that fight was over, it didn't matter if we did another deal with Spike TV or didn't do another deal. We did it. We made it. We were going somewhere.
Yeah.
That night, they take us out into the back alley, and we cut a new deal on a napkin. Literally written on a napkin, the new deal for our new deal on Spike TV.
Wow.
It's the craziest fucking story ever. You literally couldn't write this shit.
You could not. And if you did, it would almost seem like, okay, we get
Bullshit.
it. Yeah.
Like
And
that,
then the
that
next
would never happen.
That next pay-per-view was a hit. That was the turning point.
Yep.
Gosh. Okay, so
Yeah,
here's
then the coaches from that season of The Ultimate Fighter were Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chuck Liddell goes out and knocks out Randy Couture. Everybody becomes big stars. And, Forrest Griffin comes off that season, The Ultimate Fighter, and actually wins the belt and becomes a huge star. And yeah, it was huge.
That also, I just want to get your input because it just reminds me of like, there's a common issue in when starting a business where sometimes the product is really good, the awareness just isn't there. Sometimes the product's shit, and you think the problem is awareness, but it's not. It's the product. Any advice on how to
Well,
tell
the other
difference?
crazy thing about The Ultimate Fighter is we didn't want to do it. We didn't want to do a fucking reality show.
Did it seem
Who the fuck
cheesy?
wants to do a reality show?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
cheesy. They're fucking this, they're that.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do a reality show.
But you just
we
knew
wanted,
you needed
we
awareness.
wanted to put fights on TV.
Yeah.
But the reality show ended up becoming our Trojan horse.
Yeah.
You know, you're watching the fights. That was our concept. That was how we did it. You're watching fights, but it's in a reality format, so it's not as scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, gosh.
But we didn't want to fucking do a reality show. Who the fuck wants to be on a reality show?
Hey, tell me about it. I did it for 10 years.
You know what I
man.
mean? Yeah, but yours is different.
I still- when it
yours
was-
is you and your cousins and you know, and your brother, and you know, it's totally different than what you were doing. We're trying to be a sport.
Yep.
We're actually trying to be a fucking sport.
100%.
And we're gonna do a reality show
Yeah.
and look behind the scenes, and these guys are getting drunk and fighting in the fucking house and shit. You know what I mean? So not what we wanted to do, but what we had to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think having that, once again, not doubting. I know a lot of people that think that their problem is awareness, but it's actually their product. You knowing in your heart that even though everyone was telling you different, the product was so strong, all you needed was awareness, however you were going to get it.
Exactly.
And also, I know a lot of people that would say, I'm not doing a reality show. This
Right.
is too legit to be on reality TV.
Right.
I will die before, you know what I mean?
Right.
Turn into a martyr for your own thing.
100%.
Gosh, man. Good stuff. Okay, here's my other question, because I saw a video you did too with Tony Robbins. Once again, the vision that you have is so strong. Have you ever done any did you ever have a vision board? Do you ever have affirmations? Do you have any tools, or this is just how you are?
No, so what happened is, you know, whenever we do something, like I'm getting involved in boxing now,
Yep.
and I always set up a 5-year plan. We have a 5-year plan, lay out what we're going to do, where we want to be, and how do you get there.
Yep.
Because I always believe that you have to, you know, you can't go anywhere without a fucking map,
Yeah.
right? You have to have a map to go anywhere. So you have to lay out your map. And it's easy to get caught up in the daily bullshit and forget where you had to go.
Yep.
So as long as you lay it out, and I'm a very visual person. So we have war rooms that are built just for me, basically.
Yeah.
So in the UFC, we have all the fights that we're working on and the fights that are coming up, right? We have all the fighters over here that are in the top 15 in every weight class. We have the arenas that we're going to and the dates and the ones that we've been to and how much the gate was and how many people showed up.
Yeah.
Whose contracts are up over here. And we literally sit in this room for hours and stare at the wall and create all the fights that are coming up.
Still,
'Cause-
you do that now.
yeah, and I'm building one right now for boxing at the offices. I like if we're on the phone and you start trying to walk me through fights and stuff, I can't do it. I have to be in a room and I have to see it visually to put it all together. So everything for me is done with a map. I have to map it out and I have to see it.
And what type of goals do you write down? Are they revenue goals, number of tickets sold? Is it pay-per-view?
Well, no. In this business, there's one thing. Like, I'll give you an example. When you talk about the UFC and where we are now,
Yeah.
right? This business is so massive. We have a video game business that does really well. We have a Reebok deal. We have a gym business that is another $1.5 billion business on its own. The list goes on and on. I could tell you all these ancillary businesses that spin off from the UFC.
Yeah.
The only thing I focus on every day, production, new up-and-coming talent, and the fights.
Yeah.
Those are the core of the business.
Yeah.
If I ever start to lose track and start to veer off, you know how many movies we could be doing and all this other fucking, get out of here. My business is fights.
Yeah.
And as long as you stay focused on what it is that keeps your business afloat, it's tough to fuck it up.
Yeah. And do you just put people in place? There's somebody handling the toy business or somebody handling the video game business. You don't have to worry about it.
So what you do is I go out and I find one of the things that I've been very good at is finding the right people to surround me too.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier to somebody, this woman over here, is the best PR woman in the business. Period, hands down. That's a fact. I find the best person to run the video game. I find the best person to run the gyms. I find the best person, and they do what they do. Yeah. It's like one of the things that I hated about the casino business when I worked in the hotel business. I mean, not casino, the hotel business.
Yeah, yeah.
And people who are listening, I know you have this job or you've had these jobs where you have your shift starts at 7 o'clock. If you're not there, if you fucking show up at 7:01, you get written up and you get a warning and all this bullshit. Yep. You go to lunch, you have to be back at a certain time or you're fucking get written up and, so many write-ups and you get fired, all this bullshit. Yep. There's none of that at the UFC. I don't know when the fuck anybody gets to work. You get to work when you show up. You know what? People have to take their kids to school. People have to do things. People have other things going on in their life. Yeah. I don't give a shit. Get your work done. Do what needs to be done. You know what your fucking job is. You know why I hired you. You know what you need to do. Yeah. Do it. Yeah. And get it done. And you'll never hear a fucking peep from me. Yeah. Right? As long as you're doing your job, you ain't gonna hear from me. When you work at a normal job, like you get 4 days for vacation or whatever your deal is, right? I don't give a fuck where you go on vacation or how long you take. Yeah. Do your job. Yeah. Get your job done, and you'll never hear a word from me. That's how I run the business.
And that works. Clearly.
I don't know. Does it work? Seems to be working out really well. You don't terrorize your fucking people. You don't put them in fucking fear every day of losing their job because they're 3.5 minutes fucking late because they're trying to get their kids to school. I have kids too. Yeah. My younger son, it's a fucking war to get this kid to go to school. Yeah. Every day we got to go in a battle with this kid to go to school, right? And these are personal things. If your employee's personal life isn't right, their fucking professional life is never going to be right. Yeah. And that's whether it's the fighters or my people who come to work. And these things happen every day. We don't have the iron-fisted, you're a fucking robot and I don't care what's going on in your fucking personal life. All I care about is that you do your fucking job while you're here. Yeah. It's not like that. Yeah. That's not how we run our business. It's not how we've ever run our business. Listen, I demand excellence from my fucking people. Yep. Like when we do what we do it the best and we do it better than anybody else does. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean you're not a fucking human being and you don't have a personal life and that doesn't matter to me. Yeah. Check your feelings at the fucking door and do your job. It's just not how we run our business. I mean, even my guys that are with me, these guys that are with me, we run hard. We run fucking hard, man. We're on the road all the time. Yeah. And it's like, I don't even want to fuck with these guys on the weekends because you have to be with your family. Yeah. You have to be with your kids and you have to take he has to see his daughter at her play and has to do this type of shit, Yeah. So I try not even to fuck with these guys and I'll ask them, do you have something going on with your family? Be with your family. Do your family.
So advice to me, because I have 40 employees that I battle with this issue on. How do you treat when someone's taking advantage of that and not getting their work done? Are they instantly
You fire them.
Instantly.
You fire them. Okay. Yes. Listen.
So that's where the hard...
Yeah, so you here's the thing. If your employees are smart, they know that they have it good. They know that they have a good job. Because going out and working for somebody else sucks. Yeah. I promise you that. Yeah. I can tell you right now, we've had people who have left the UFC for better opportunities. Mm-hmm. Every fucking person that has left has told me I fucked up. Yeah. I should have stayed at the UFC. You don't realize, because once you get a job is a job. When you work, it's a job. It's Yeah. But we're really good to our people. We pay people really well. We treat people really well. And we expect you to work hard and we expect you to do your job, but everybody expects that of you when you work. But I'm really big on people making sure that their families and their home life are taken care of, and especially people who have kids. Yeah. Spend time with your kids.
Yeah, that's big. I'm gonna personally put that advice into play. Guys, you can take all the vacations you want.
It makes you happier. It makes you happier as a human being. When everything is good in your personal life, it spills over into your work life.
I agree. Okay, I have to ask the question. So you bought this thing for $2 million. You went through all of this madness, sunk countless millions into it. The day you sign a $4 billion deal, does it feel at that? Is there any sense of I made it? That's all.
No,
done?
it was the exact opposite for
I
me.
hate that. So you're telling me even if I sign a $4 billion deal, I won't get that feeling?
I'm not saying that you wouldn't. Some people did. Like,
Yeah.
I had guys who worked for me that took off and they don't work anymore.
Yeah.
You know, this thing was like the Microsoft of fighting. I mean, a lot of people made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the Fertittas are very good people, and they took care of a lot of people
Yeah.
that were there in the beginning. And this is so much more to me. And it's funny, I say this all the time, and people always laugh at me. You know, it's the assholes who make all the money that always say, it's not about the money.
Yeah.
But it literally wasn't about the money for me.
Yeah.
And when we sold, I wasn't ready to sell, but Lorenzo was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Lorenzo was ready to move on, and and Lorenzo was right. The timing was right to do it and everything else. But for me, at that place and time, these guys, I love the Fertitta brothers.
Yeah.
So much, and I respect them, and we had so much fun. It's like Lorenzo always used to say, a really bad day at the UFC isn't really a bad day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so much fun, and we loved what we were doing, and we loved doing it together. And thanks, buddy.
Yep.
And I wasn't ready, so it fucked me up. You know, it fucked me up. When we sold, I literally went to a hotel and spent 2 days in the hotel, didn't call anybody, didn't return anybody's calls. And
Gosh, and because the whole dynamic was changing, right? I mean, it's like you built this whole thing with
Yeah.
your two buddies, and now
yeah,
you don't know what it's going to be like. I mean, it turns out
Exactly.
Ari's great, it sounds
100%.
like, but like,
100, you're
you
dead
never
on.
hear that side of it. You just hear $4 billion deal. This guy must have went to a hotel in Vegas with, and just had a 5-day party.
Right.
You know what I'm
it
saying?
it couldn't have been more opposite.
Yeah, gosh. It's good to
And-
know. Because people ask me a lot in interviews and stuff, when did you know you made it and stuff like that? I'm like, I don't think that feeling exists. That's why I
Right.
was asking you for
True.
real, because if anyone has felt it, you've felt it. I don't know that for someone who has a vision, who's trying to create something, that feeling ever truly exists.
No, it doesn't. You don't ever feel like you made it. There's still so much more work to do,
Yeah.
and so many things to be done. Achievements. I mean, since we got on ESPN, this business is going like this.
Yeah.
We haven't even got close to where this thing is going to be
Yeah.
in the next 5 years. And when we sold, it was a completely different feeling for me. Yeah, you're getting a big fat check. I ain't gonna be worrying about paying the fucking light bill and my car payment and shit like that.
Yeah.
But I was losing this dynamic I had with my two friends that I loved to work with and I loved to be around every day.
Yeah.
That was going away. So while I was gaining a bunch of money, which is great, it's always great. No, listen, nobody's gonna bum out about getting a bunch of money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I was losing what I really did. What I was doing was working with my fucking friends every day.
It's also a lesson to me in the value of creating a work environment that you love. Because we can all create today.
Right.
You don't need $4 billion, $20 billion to do that,
Yep.
right? And when that all changed, if that's more what you were focused on, it just shows the value of having a work environment that you truly love.
True.
You know what I mean?
And that's what it was.
That's
I
crazy.
loved working with Lorenzo every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Frank was over at Station Casinos, but I would see Frank a few times a month too, and we would hang out and we would go on trips and we would have a fucking blast.
Yeah.
We would have so much fun, whether it was going to the fights or going on trips and doing these things.
Yeah.
And that's what was the best part for me, you know? It was doing it with them.
Yeah.
And exactly what you said was happening. Well, I don't know what the future's going to be like.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm in it, and it's awesome, and I love it, and it's great, and it all worked out.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that then.
Of course. Is it still just as fun as it always was?
Yes.
You still see
Yes.
the vision like you always did? You
Yes.
still, yeah.
I'm not doing it with them, but yes, it's awesome. And Ari is fucking awesome. He's awesome. He couldn't have been a better guy to be the guy to come in with me again.
Yeah.
You know how many arguments me and Ari have had in the last fucking almost 4 years? Zero.
Really?
Yeah, we've had zero. No arguments whatsoever. All the shit with the banks, dealing with the banks and all that shit that are involved now, Ari does all that. Because that's what Ari does, and that's what Ari's really good at.
Yep.
And you know what him and the banks do? They let me do my thing. They stay out of the way, and they let me run the business.
Yeah.
And it's fucking great.
That's so
Perfect.
important.
And not one hiccup as far as, I mean, if you asked her or any of my other employees that are there, no hiccups, nothing, everything. The transition was completely smooth. And for two massive companies to merge like this and have it run as good as it does now, I'd have to say it's almost unheard of.
Unheard of. Because that's where a lot of businesses get in trouble is when that transition happens. Okay, let me ask you this. I only got a couple more and I'll let you get going. When I look at, so two things happen when I look at you and your business from the outside. Number one, it seems like potentially the most stressful company to run in the world. Because not only are you just running a massive $7 billion company now, but there's legal issues with the fighters. People get hurt last minute, drop out, this, that. You have guys throwing barriers through bus windows. Madness. How do you not stress? Because the other thing that I see, I said there's two things. One is that. The other is that you seem to absolutely love what you do, love your life. You don't seem overly stressed. How do you balance that? Do you shut it off? Do you turn your phone off at like 9 p.m. and you don't, like, what's your, like, how do you do that?
No, I don't ever shut my phone off.
I bet.
But I think the reality is that I love it so much, I can't imagine not doing it. I think I would be a miserable human being if I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just,
So when a
this is what
legal
I
thing
love to do.
happens, there's madness, this guy's out.
So if you ask these guys that are around me all the time,
Yeah.
I actually like chaos.
Yeah, you must.
If I don't have it, I'll create it in my own personal life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I think I've become addicted to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I love it. I actually love it. Look, if you look at all the things that you just said, now I'm getting into boxing.
Yeah.
I need my fucking head fixed. There's something wrong with me, I think. And
But you seem, anytime I've ever run into you, anything, you are, I mean, I'll be honest, these guys asked me the other day, who's one person that is very nice, kind, but doesn't need to be, meaning like someone who's very successful, but is still nice to everyone? I said you. Because every time I've ever run into you,
Thank
you
you.
don't act like anything, right? And when I
But
see
guess
the
what?
type of shit you deal with, there's stuff going
You
on
shouldn't.
today.
You shouldn't.
Agreed.
You should never become that person.
Yeah.
No matter how much fucking money you make or any of that. And one of the things that I always do, and very much that way with my kids too, is we don't ever talk about the money. It's never,
Yeah.
life is never about money. If it's about money, you already fucked up.
Yeah.
You already blew it.
Yeah.
If it's all about the money, you miss the whole picture on what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
You know, listen, if you work hard and you love what you do and everything is perfect in your personal life, the money should fucking come along and it should be part of the gig.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, big
It
time.
doesn't always happen that way. But the money, I know people always say this and it pisses people off who don't have money. I saw the funniest fucking thing on Instagram the other day. It's like these people that say money won't solve my problems. Money would literally solve every one of my problems right now.
Yeah.
Right? I
Here's
fucking
my
love
10
that.
problems.
It's hilarious, but it's not fucking true.
Yeah.
It's not true. I'm telling you, if you think you have problems now, sprinkle a fucking few $1 million on top of it, and I promise you,
Yeah.
your problems will fucking will grow beyond belief. It can never be about the money. You need to be a happy fucking person in your life, or you're never going to be happy with money.
Yeah. Big time. Okay, another thing that
It's always like, it's funny too. You meet these people that are like, if I had money, I'd fucking be in great shape. I'd get a fucking trainer and a chef and everything else. No, you won't.
Yeah.
You're going to fucking eat worse than you eat now, and you're going to eat fucking crazier food. Money will not make you skinny. It won't make you fucking happy. It won't make you fucking, a better person. It's not going to make you, you're either that person or you're not.
Yeah.
Period.
Big time. Okay, the other thing about you that's fascinating is I said this in the beginning, you have this supreme confidence in your vision, but also are not too, whatever the word is, overly confident where you don't learn.
Right.
And I think one thing that's so important with success is knowing when you need to act like you know everything and when you need to act like you know nothing.
Right.
How do you balance that? Does that just come naturally? How do you know when you're in a situation where you're talking to a athletic board or whatever, and you need to act like whatever?
Here's a good answer for that. I'm going into boxing.
Yep.
In October, I'm absolutely positively going into boxing. And I believe that I have the right plan to make this thing successful. And this is going to happen overnight. It's going to be a lot of hard work. It's going to take time, and we're going to have to build it over the years, like any business. You have to build it over time, and you have to reinvest in it. And I'm not as arrogant as to go out and say, I'm going to be the guy that's going to do this and that and everything else. I believe that I have the plan, and some people will shit all over it and say this is the dumbest idea ever.
Yep.
Other people will embrace it and believe in it, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. No guarantees that I'm going to be able to do this, but I think I can do it. I'm going to give it a shot. Same thing that happened with the UFC,
Yeah.
And I am confident that this will work, but you don't want to be so arrogant that you can't dive into it and know that mistakes are going to happen and that you're going to have to tweak some things here and there.
Yeah.
And
it's just a fine line. I could see how having your history in fighting, you could be like, I'm going to take over boxing. Wait till you see what I'm about to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's amazing.
So in 5 to 7 years, we'll see if I was right or if I was wrong.
There we go. Okay, last 2 speed round. Number 1, if you could jump into a time machine right now, go back to any point in your own life and tell yourself anything, what time period would you go and what would you say?
Shit. I would have to say, if I could jump into a time machine and go tell myself, I would tell myself when I was 18, you're on the right track. Keep doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
Because people always ask me if you could change anything, what would you change? Nothing.
Yep.
Everything that happened to me and everything I did led to me being right here, right now. And I'm happy with where I'm at.
Awesome. Last one, you can prescribe anything to the entire world for 30 days and they have to follow your prescription. What do you tell everyone to do?
You could prescribe anything to anyone in the world, to everyone in the world.
Yeah.
And they would have to do it. I think if, fuck, that's a tough one. I think what I would do is I would get everybody a trainer, and they had to work out. What is it, for how many days?
30 days.
For 30 days.
Yeah.
And they had to work out every day for 30 days.
Yeah.
I'm so huge on working out. I think that when you work out, it's like time for yourself, and it makes you feel better, and it makes you want to eat better, and it makes you want to. I just think that I would get everybody into some type of workout where they had to do it. I think that working out is so important. Ever since my kids have been little, I've made them work out and do things like that.
Yeah.
Because it starts as a kid. Mm-hmm. If you don't start working out when you're young, you're definitely probably not going to work out when you're older.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so important.
Yeah, I agree. Dana, thank you so much, man. I can't thank you enough. This is
My
incredible.
pleasure. It was awesome.
Thanks for the time.
This was fun, man.
Thanks for the inspiration.
Likewise.
Guys, if you like that and you want to see more like it, as well as vlogs, other web series, and all the random stuff that I'm doing here on YouTube, don't forget to click that subscribe button. You won't regret it, I promise.